Hey everybody, it's Strict 9 with Strict 9 GP, and welcome back to another episode of my Out of the Park 20 playthrough with the Phillies. The off season is over. We're starting spring training. That's what we're going to cover this episode. But it was really a bad off season. I'm starting this season not as optimistic as I've been the last couple of seasons. Just things did not turn out the way I hoped they would. And this team had some limitations, both from a finance, budgeting, owner type perspective, and then injuries and and what's available in free agency. It was a tough off season. To give you an idea, I've started off with the off season summary by team screen. We're almost dead last in terms of the wins above replacement that we gained, in our case lost, over the off season. Only Pittsburgh and Washington had a worse offseason, and thankfully Washington's in the National League East. On the flip side, I guess Atlanta, they had a positive offseason, picking up .6 wins above replacement. The Mets and Miami were negative, pretty low there, so that might play into our favor. I'm not sure, but Atlanta's already a pretty tough team, so that's going to be questionable whether I've got the goods to repeat. We're coming off 2 straight division winning seasons. Made it to the World Series last year. I'd like to make it again and win it, but it's going to be tough if we don't perform a little bit better than expectations this year. And taking a look at who we lost, the biggest thing I mentioned last episode was Sean Riggs. Even though that guy stunk it up in the postseason, he still had a good year for us last year. 5.8 wins above replacement. He was in the end of season awards. He was the only Philly who got at least a vote for the MVP award. And I hated to see him go as much as that postseason performance frustrated me. I really needed this guy back. And so he went with San Francisco. And San Francisco, they're a team that we won against in the division series last year. That might not be the case this year. They picked up, I think, a couple guys at least to help them out. They look like a tough team right now. So what I did manage to pick up to replace Riggs, it's going to be sketchy. I went with a rookie, Dan Pritchard, who got a little bit of minimal playing time, just one at bat for Arizona last year. He's just a 3-star pitcher, or 3-star left fielder, but he's got good defensive ratings, good speed, which of course I like, and his contact, gap power, avoiding Ks, those ratings are really good. He's a lefty, and like a lot of players that have developed in this game, and I've noticed that probably with the last few episodes, the lefty-righty splits are really heavy. I think they're almost weighed a little bit too much, but I still think he's adequate enough that he could be the full-time starter. We'll see how he does to start the season. But it's really going to depend on, is this guy going to be like a diamond in the rough kind of thing, or just really an unexpected player. I'm hoping so anyway. And if that's the case, then maybe we won't miss Riggs as much. Outside of that, there was one other pickup. I know that we're strong, or I have said that we're strong pitching-wise. But this guy was available. He was a Japanese free agent, just 26 years old, 5-star rated reliever. Potentially could step into the closer role and might step into that closer role a little bit sooner than I was thinking. But at just $5.5 million over 4 years, I thought this was a really good pickup. And whether I picked him up or not, I think the bullpen could still use a little bit of help. And then the last guy I picked up was kind of another gamble. He's an infielder. I am going to try to start Eubanks for the first time this year at second, having lost Koopman. And this guy can play second, third, short, not as good, but Again, good speed, decent contact ratings, young guy. So, hopefully he'll develop and he might even potentially work his way into a starting role if Eubanks can't handle second. That brings up the other point, which I was debating at the last episode. Jamie Koopman got injured at the end of the season in the playoffs. It was a long-term injury, and unfortunately, what happened to him was what I was afraid would happen to him. He lost some ratings. Still at 3.2 million, probably not a bad bargain, not a bad value, but don't think he's going to be the starter anymore. And I just decided to pass on him. Now, if he's still available and those two guys don't pick it up, Eubanks and the guy I did pick up, yeah, I might take a look at Eubanks or take a look at Koopman again, but he may not be available too long into the season. But one last thing I wanted to highlight, and then we'll go into playing out some games. There were a couple of guys who made the Hall of Fame this year. It went to, first time on the ballot, Kevin Dowdell. And this is a guy, I voted for him, but I didn't really, I think last episode I kind of went through the Hall of Fame voting, kind of glossed it over a little bit, but I forgot how good this guy was at the start of his career. He played for Milwaukee. He was a 3-time MVP, and from the time he became a regular through probably this season right here, 2031, he was easily the best player in the National League. He just had some injury problems, like he missed half season in 2029, like a third of the season in 2027, that kind of held him back. And he could have probably put up, well over 2,000 hits, close to 500 home runs if he'd gotten maybe 3 or 4 more seasons. But he's still at 70.9 wins above replacement, a 315 career average. He was really a good player. I forgot how good he was. And then Rafael Devers, a guy that I thought deserved it and voted for him, he made it through as well. Finished pretty high with wins above replacement, and productivity-wise, he was really good. Finished out his career at Philadelphia and was honestly a really good player for us. I'm surprised no other team picked him up unless he had... No, he didn't have injury problems, so I'm surprised why he didn't get any other play time after us, because I think he was good enough. He could have gotten a few more seasons and added some to his numbers, but even the way they stand, he did have, I think, a Hall of Fame career. All right, so that's it for the off season. Let's get to looking at our team. And one of the big things I didn't mention, and this is what this game will do to you. It'll rip your heart out sometimes. But one of the things I was counting on this year was having Nate McAfee back. Big free agent pitching sign that I had two or three off seasons ago, 2038. So it's going back a ways. He had a pretty decent first season for us. Then he got injured early last year, missed all of the season, but he was slated to come back sometime around April, May. Well, he took a turn for the worse, and now he's not going to be back until next season, like start of next season, before he's even available. And even though his ratings are not showing a hit, I can almost guarantee when he comes back healthy, he's probably going to be wrecked, for one thing, on his injury proneness. And for another thing, I bet he's probably going to be a 2 to 3 star pitcher at best. And I've got him for 2 more years. So, gamble you take sometimes, and it didn't work out. I was even thinking about trading Pete Parker, who isn't the pitcher that he was when I signed him or traded for him. But now I guess I'm glad I didn't, even though he's still just 3.5 star pitcher. I'm going to need him this year. So those two things, I made those signings because I thought last year was our year to win it all, and we came close. But now having those two guys contract is really going to hurt me going forward. We've got some guys who are going to soon, Zach Thompson, for instance, in two more seasons, he's going to be getting some high arbitration numbers if he keeps it up. Dion will be arbitration eligible after this season. Ian Norman's probably going to be a free agent soon, but he's going to pick up, well, 3 more years, but he's going to have some high arbitration. So I wouldn't say it's put us in a hole, but it's not where I'd like to be to try to build a regular contender. But here's what we're looking at starting pitching. Going with that 6-man rotation, which is what I usually do in spring training. Murdoch Ings will probably be odd man out unless there's an injury, but he might, depends on how he pitches, he might fit somewhere in the mix in the bullpen if some of these other guys get injured or have a bad spring. Another thing that was disappointing, Mendoza, coming off his Relief Pitcher of the Year award last year, his best season, his ratings took a dive. He went from a 4.5, 5-star rated pitcher to now he's 3.5. I still think he can close. I'm going to use the new pickup Hadakiyama as a stopper for now, but it might be that he's going to be sharing some closer duties in the regular season. But starting pitching, I moved Thompson up to that 2nd spot. I'm kind of hesitant to do that because I'd still like to kind of baby him along. I think, he'll probably get better matchups against teams, if he's in a 3rd or 4th spot in terms of the other starting pitcher he's going to go against. But hopefully, he's definitely rated that highly already. I think he's arguably our best pitcher on the staff already, but I'm going to try to keep him in the middle of the rotation if I can, but we'll see how he does. And then on the lineup side, Norman, of course, getting the start at catcher for primarily. Tupper, I'm hoping he duplicates what he did last year. Eubanks, that's going to be the big question mark, is he good enough to start full-time? And then Vega, Gutierrez, Pritchard, the new guy at left, and then Warlick coming off a breakout year last year for him. He's going to be starting really lefties and righties. Same situation for him. He's a left-handed batter, but I think I'm going to primarily bat him even against lefties because I think he's better really full-time than the alternatives. And then we got some new guys here. Chris Benefield, I think potentially he's got the chance to be our starting center fielder. I'm hoping that he develops a little bit more this year. And then this guy, Villalobos, another guy who might, I like his defense and speed. He might land a bench role, but his contact is a little low. It's going to depend on how the other outfielders perform. I'm giving Eric George a look. I think he's got the potential to be the full-time starting left fielder on this team. He's looked pretty good at several stops in the minors, and he was slated to play at Double-A this year. He'll probably go back to Double-A, but I had to put him on the 40-man roster, and so I just decided I would take a look at him in spring. I had to put him on that 40-man roster to keep from losing him. But quite a bit of a mix going on offensively. I just hope that some of these guys take up the slack of Koopman and Riggs that we lost from last year. All right, so we're going to go ahead and sim a week at a time and probably look at the team after a couple weeks, see how we're doing. Off to a pretty decent start, looks like. In what was our record there? 4-1, not too bad. See what kind of late pickups are coming in, and then I'm going to go ahead one more week and then might take a look at the team at that point. Still getting these offers on starting pitcher. I mean, Chris Lawford, yeah, I'd like to have this guy, except he's fragile. But, I'm not going to trade away yeah, they're not even interested in anything I have. I'm not going to trade away somebody who's going to be a young guy and a full-time contributor. All right, so some injuries coming in here. San Francisco lost a average bullpen guy. This is a left fielder that I'd looked at, Josh Jowett. I think he's good enough to start. I don't think he's as good as the guy I picked up, though. So I'll be okay with that. He went for $6.5 million, and honestly, at this point, I don't really have $6.5 million to play around with. All right, so a trade proposal here from the Cardinals, but it's a catcher, and I am really set at catching. I'm not going to respond to that one, or I'm going to reject it. I did pick up several offers for Gene Warlick over the offseason. All right, so looking at the spring coverage so far, 8-3, leading in the East. That's pretty good. I want to take a look at the pitching staff first to see if anything looks out of whack or really good. Contreras, who is now going to have to take up, he's going to have to be that fifth starter again. He's having a good spring. Pete Parker's looking good. That's a good sign. Thompson, only one start, but he's looking good. Mike Morrison, dealing with a little bit of an injury. The new pickup here, look at him. 7 innings, 13 strikeouts. Good start for him. Joe Scott. This guy is one of the more valuable pitchers on the team, I think. Thankfully, he's got several years left of arbitration, so I think I might be able to hold on to him until I don't really need him anymore. And then on the lineup side, batting stats, Ian Norman, not doing too great. I'd like to see him have a really good breakout year. I know he's been a 2-time All-Star, but his numbers haven't really reflected how good he could be. Big disappointing start for Tupper, hitting 087. Eubanks, same deal, hitting 100. It's possible that Barajas, who I did pick up, I think he was a Rule 5 pickup. Yeah, he might wind up having to start at second. Man, the offense is really struggling. Gutierrez, 111 average. Steve Bond, Warlick, 048. Holy cow. Offense is really not doing good at all. So let's see if they can pick that up. Chris Benfield, though, who did play at Lehigh Valley last year, AAA. I'm really ready to keep this guy up as a bench player. I just wish he could play a couple more positions. I might give him some play time as the season goes on in left and right. All right, so let's play ahead another week and see if this gets a little bit better. Another trade proposal from Cardinals, a pitcher for Gutierrez, and I cannot afford to let Gutierrez go right now. So I'm going to say no to that. And we're still winning. There's a minor league injury. I'm not even going to really bother with that because this guy, he's 6 months, but their season's a long way away from starting. And another trade proposal from Pittsburgh this time. Another pitcher for Vega. And again, I can't afford to let Vega go. Vega was got some votes for Rookie of the Year at $9.5 million. That's pretty good value for a 4.4 wins above replacement starter. So I'm gonna turn that one down. Chris Hartman. That name sounds familiar. Is he a former Philly? No. So record 10-5, 10-6. We may have a hard time even holding off Atlanta in the spring. And another trade proposal, Arizona, another pitcher. And they're wanting Ken Dion. And I'm just not ready to let Dion go right now. I think he's been more than adequate. Put him in that 4th spot in rotation, and I think he can do okay. So, and it helps, that he's still making the minimum. So, really don't want to trade him. And one thing too, I do get quite a few offers for Norman, and even though I'm not completely satisfied with this guy as a starting catcher, I'm gonna keep him around as much as I can for as long as I can. All right, so we're 13-7, 14-7, and we got an injury here, Josh Dean, but only a day-to-day for 1 day. Arizona, they're wanting to give us a catcher for Ken Dion. Nah, it's kind of a no-brainer. I would start my backup catcher, Quartang, over this guy. All right, so let's finish out this week, see how we look. Mike Morrison, that's a pretty big one. It's a moderate, and it's for 2 weeks. I'm going to put him on the injured list so that he maybe comes back healthy. He's going to be a free agent after this year. Based on his age, I think that's probably going to be, it's probably his last year being effective. I do have a couple guys here, well, at least one anyway, in Gelpy, who I don't like his personality, but in a pinch, he might could be called up if I needed somebody. But I'll probably have one of those pitchers, two of those pitchers will probably be sent down after spring at any rate. So I think I can withstand a couple injuries right now, but I don't want to get too far out of it. All right, so let's first off, we're at 14-8, so we're still leading in the East. Looks like Arizona and Chicago, St. Louis having some good seasons, and of course San Francisco just 11-12. But let's take a look with 1 week to go here at how the team's doing. So pitching obviously is where we're winning, and man, they all look incredible. The odd man out, of course, being Murdoch Ings, and I had a viewer who commented he was interested in seeing this guy how his career played out because he's from his hometown of Thunder Bay, Ontario. A guy like this is tough to really position in some ways. I mean, I might could trade him away. He's not as valuable as a starter really as he is as a reliever, but his movement's not too good. He's going to give up a lot of home runs. He's looked decent, really looked good in 2039 in the minors. He has 3 solid pitches. It's just I don't know where I could put him right now, barring injury. So I don't know what I could get from a trade perspective, but let me just try it real quick. Yeah, a lot of relief pitchers, some high like Brad Evans, a $12 million contract I can't afford. Ben Felton, a weak defending third baseman. Mike Berry, weak defense in the outfield. Jim Cox, not going to be a starter. Jonathan Condrey, former Philly actually, that I traded away. Good defender, got good speed. Was a decent starter for a while there for Cincinnati, but not going to be a long-term solution at second. So I'd have to really, I don't really have the budget room to trade for any of these guys that are being offered. So I'll probably have to hang on to Ings, and he'll probably get sent down after the spring, but might come back as a injury replacement. Now that's if I've got, he's out of option years, so I may lose him anyway. And if that's the case, he might land with another team and have a decent career. Now, offensively, looks like Norman's hitting a little bit better. Tupper's still struggling. Eubank's still struggling. Vega, Gutierrez, they're hitting a little bit better. Pritchard, Bond, Warlick, they're all hitting better than they were the last time I checked it out. But, man, outside of a couple guys, offensively, we are not looking good. Barajas, he's definitely hitting better than Eubanks in the few starts that he's getting. But Tupper's really worrying me. This guy, he's the best I got. He's all I have really at first. I think I could probably put Romero there, but Romero's a 2-star guy. His defense is not that great. I don't think he's really going to develop into anything better than a bench player, and he's struggling in the spring. So I don't really have anybody I could go with at first right now. And to give you an idea on the budget, I mean, I have projected budget room just under $2 million. Total money available $11 million. So I want to kind of save that going to have, around the trading deadline in case I really need it then. So I think I'm just gonna have to tough it out. I more than likely, if I look at all offensive players available, yeah, we're down to the 2.5 star guys. Luis Becerra, no defense. Magellanes, he's okay, but I don't like his personality ratings. I mean, he could probably start in left for the most part. Here's a first baseman. God, that personality is horrible. I don't want to risk that. Juan Flores, another first baseman. He's a poor defender and he's fragile. Was he a former Philly? Jerry Henson. He had some decent years there with Minnesota. 33 years old. He's going to give you low average. That's just what you're going to get from him, but he's going to get on base a little bit. Probably better defense than Tupper. About the same power. Mike Thaler, he's wrecked. And I'm not seeing too much that's a better option than Tupper at the moment. I wonder if Sean Barge, a former Philly, still hanging on in this league, and he's put together a decent career. Kind of glad I traded him when I did. He was definitely at the end of his productive years when I let him go. But I'm looking for Koopman. Koopman's still out there. Oh well. We'll see how these guys look, Eubanks and Barajas. See how they look into the first month or so of the season. If he's still available, we might come back and see. Because $2.4 million, that, like I say, that's kind of why I'm saving that money. I might could try it for him. All right, so Dave Schrimsher, a former Philly, still there, still playing, but he's done now. His career's over. He was a guy who honestly gave us some pretty decent performance for a couple years there. His control wasn't all that good, but he finished with 117 wins and 1,759 strikeouts. And how many starts was that? Career starts of 407. So he really used his mediocre stuff to have a long career. It's kind of amazing. Sometimes guys will do that. Another pitcher here for Zach Thompson. No way. Just not gonna even dignify that one. All right, so one more game looks like. See how we finish. We finished with a win, and man, we looked like we finished strong in the spring at 18-10. Best record in the National League East. Just a game behind the Cardinals, a game over Arizona. So at least we've got that start. At least we played well in spring training, but it was honestly all about this pitching. You take out Ings, I mean, nobody pitched bad. It's incredible how good some of these guys pitched. Joe Scott had a great spring. The pickup Hatakayama, 19 innings, 32 strikeouts. Mendoza looked okay, so I'm going to keep him in that closer role for a while. But I'm telling you, this guy might be ready to take over right now. All right, so I like to go with a 12-man staff. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So honestly, Ings is the only guy that's going to get sent down, and he's out of option years. So I'm going to have to waive him. And I mean, I could try once again on the trade, but I didn't see anything. I saw some other relievers, but probably going to be in the same boat. They're going to be relievers who are out of option years, so I'm going to have to keep them up on the club or lose them again. So I think I'm just going to let Ings go and Forgot the guy, forgot the viewer's name who made that comment, but hey, maybe he'll go somewhere else if he gets picked up and manage to have a decent career. All right, so Ings, waive him. Now, it's possible nobody picks him up, but I kind of doubt it. I think he's valuable to some team. So now the big thing is, who am I going to send down? And I know Burga's going to go, even though he looked good at AAA last year. I don't expect he's ready to start. And in terms of the spring training, he struggled hitting 056. Lockhart's got to stay. Romero, once again, I keep calling this guy up, and he keeps disappointing in a lot of ways. He's really looked good in the minors at several stops. Looked good last year for Lehigh Valley. He might be out of option years. Nope, he's got one more left. So, got to send him down. Benefield, I really want him up there, even though his ratings are not that great. I like his speed. I think offensively, he's looking pretty good. And Eric George, however, I'm going to call him down to AA because I don't think he's ready for this kind of. I don't think he's ready for majors yet. And if he starts out hot, I may call him up to AAA. So, yeah, Villalobos, not yet. He's not quite ready for it. So he's going down. And so that leaves me. So I got 13 players I got to fit in here. Two of these guys got to go. Eubanks really struggled. And I'm a little worried about that. Sellers, man, he's a right-handed bat, which I don't really have, but I'd rather have Hobbs than him. So let's see if he can go down. I tell you, the guy I would love to get to move would be Lockhart, and keep these three guys. Tuck, I like his ratings. He had a good season last year in AAA. I like his contact ratings. I don't want to send him down. And Hobbs, great defender, good speed. I kind of want to keep him up too. And I want to give Benefield more time in the majors. So I'm going to have to decide what's going to happen here. I mean, I've got two guys to move down. No, one guy, sorry. One of those guys has to go down. And if I could just... He's a good team player. That's true. I think I would probably take a hit trading him away, and he might even need him. So I don't think I could do that. So it's really going to be down to Benefield, Hobbs, Tuck, who gets sent down. And I'm just going to have to debate that with myself. But that's how the spring went. Not too bad. I'm feeling a little bit better having come into the spring with things the way they were with this team, the way the offseason went. But goal this year is to get back to that World Series and win it. Hopefully our pitching will be strong enough and healthy enough to do that. And then we've got Morrison to come off and probably a few games. He'll probably come back as soon as he's healthy, because I don't think the AAA season will have started, so he can get a rehab assignment. So then I'll have to move one of these guys down to the minors or trade him away to make room for him. So it's a couple decisions here to make going into the season. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll come back next episode, and we'll start out probably the first month or so of the season, see how we do, and probably like I usually do, about 3 episodes to get through a season. And hopefully we got another year in us. This is the best run I've had in this whole playthrough. So for those guys who've watched it a long time, appreciate you staying in there with me. But as far as a lot of times I've said before, it's not about winning a lot of times. A lot of times I get just as much enjoyment out of having something like Zach Thompson, a guy I drafted, come along and develop into, hopefully, potential Hall of Fame pitcher. That would be great. But ultimately, I would like to end this series with some World Series victories. That'd be nice. But as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next episode.